In the same vein, human rights lawyer Femi Falana has called on President Bola Tinubu to address the demands of the peaceful protesters. In a statement on Sunday, Falana said that the presidential speech delivered this morning fell short of addressing the key demands of the protesters: reversal of the policy of withdrawal of fuel subsidy. Now, while congratulating the protesters for drawing the attention of politicians who are eating in Abuja to the plight of millions of Nigerians who are hungry, Falana demanded the immediate and unconditional release of all protesters that were arrested and detained, saying they had not committed any criminal offense. Falana also condemned the repression of the peaceful protesters while commiserating with all those who lost loved ones in the protest. He called on the government to set up commissions of inquiry to bring to justice those responsible for the reckless killings. Now, joining us on the news is Mohammed Abdullahi, a public affairs analyst. Hello, Mohammed. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Good evening, Nigerians. It's my pleasure.
All right. Now, speaking of the protest and the president's address, do you think that the president's address shows that he truly gets what Nigerians are going through? And, is he offering, or would you say he's offering real solutions to their struggles, or it's just more of the same thing?
First and foremost, I think we must give kudos to the presidency for, at least after the third day of the protest, coming out to, address Nigerians. That is good. It means the presidency is listening. I'm not talking particularly about the president now, but the presidency as a whole is listening, and at least they are seeing what is going on across the length and breadth of Nigeria. But for me, this is my opinion, that is just where it stops. Listening to the address of the president this morning was quite not motivating, because it reveals the fact that while President Tinubu and this administration was coming into existence, they actually understood to some extent the challenge or the many challenges of Nigerians, particularly where we are coming from the previous government. But perhaps because they are from the same party, he's been unable to voice out. And then when it is at the critical moment now, the president is really accepting the fact that Nigeria's economy and even the state of infrastructure and so many other things are in shambles. But having said that, I think what is painful for Nigerians, seriously, is the fact that these austerity measures are just meant only for downtrodden and ordinary Nigerians. If the government led by example or is leading by example, I tell you, a whole lot of Nigerians on the street today will really understand and support the government to make things work. Yes, we know we can't continue with subsidy as it were. We know so many things have to change. But the people at the helm of affairs, starting with the president, I must say, is not, is not following suit. What do I mean? The president understands that we don't have more money for subsidy, we don't have all other things, but he's had the most bloated cabinet ever in Nigeria, at least about 50 or so ministers, or even more. In fact, recently he just created a new ministry of livestock whatsoever. That is one. Secondly, we don't have money, but we refurbish the vice president's home, someone who has been in governance as a commissioner, as a governor for at least 16 years, enjoying taxpayers' money. We refurbish that same person's home for 21 billion Nigerian naira. Come on. And so many other things that people in government, from the presidency, the legislature, will increase the judiciary salary by more than 300%. It was speedily passed by the National Assembly. And yet, you are asking Nigerians to endure and endure and endure while you, at the helm of affairs, is living so large, luxuriously. Nobody will understand with you. Seriously. I think these are some of the areas or the main areas where Nigerians are not with the government.
Now, talking about, making it work, you did mention a fuel subsidy quite a number of times. But, the removal of fuel subsidy and also the abolition of, multiple foreign exchange systems were mentioned as necessary economic measures, in the address. Now, but I want you to tell us how you think these measures or these decisions have actually impacted the average Nigerian.
As it is, yes, like I mentioned earlier, these are perhaps necessary evils that we needed to do with. But the President Bola Tinubu, came about all this in a very wrong way. Let me tell you, the fact that while reading out his speech as the President of Nigeria on May 29, 2023, the President made mention categorically that fuel subsidy is gone. That catchphrase only was terrible. It sent so many shockwaves across the country, and people began to run helter-skelter. Businesses began to, things began to fail immediately. I thought, and this is my opinion, that the President should have allowed himself settle down, understood what is happening, and then, plan out things. What he did was he just took a decision, and then at the end, reacting to the decision that he took, which was wrong. He was supposed to, and he and his cabinet were supposed to put plans and measures together to cushion the effect of removal of subsidy before the actual announcement. That would have, reduced some of the extraordinary measures that Nigerians are passing through today. I tell you, that catchphrase alone on the 29th of May 2023 was really, really terrible, and it sent so many shockwaves across the economy in Nigeria. So I think what happened, is that people didn't plan. So many businesses and individuals across the country did not plan for the shockwave that happened on the 29th of May, and the ripple effect is what we are seeing all over. Everything because of the removal of subsidy, which was done.
Okay. So the ripple effect is what is affecting everyone in Nigeria. Even the elites actually, they might not be feeling the pain as much as the common masses, but they're actually suffering it. So talking about that now, on one hand, we were seeing that so many people are suffering, and on the other hand, you're saying that the president's speech did not address what the protesters are actually fighting for. So do you think that President Tinubu's call for a suspension of the protest and embracing dialogue is the right step in the right direction?
Definitely, it's the right step, but are people willing to listen? I've just seen a breaking news that perhaps in Plateau State, and Jos in particular, the protesters are calling on shop owners and businesses to either close down and join them or close down their businesses. So, are the protesters willing to listen? Remember, the number one thing that is bedeviling Nigerians today is actually food insecurity. Hunger is there, insecurity is there. So the government needs to, I understand, like in the president's speech where he mentioned that, they've opened the borders for some certain foods, including rice, to come in for the next 6 months without tax and so on and so forth. It's fine, but that is not enough. The president needs to do more. Perhaps cutting down on his cabinet, making so much announcement. In fact, offices that were not voted for should be scrapped. So many other things that needed to be done. So I don't think the president really addressed the protesters in this speech. Perhaps they might look inwards and see other things that they needed to do in order to pacify the protesters. And again, you also understand that some of the things driving the protest, perhaps the answers was more heat in Lagos. But this particular protest, if you've been watching the trends, Kano is actually more heat. And then it's also the fact that perhaps in my own little findings is because the ruling party is not there in Kano. So the protest has different, scenarios. So it is important that the president and perhaps even the state governors do something urgently.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mohammed, for speaking to us, on the protest and the president's address this evening.
Thank you very much.